Well, ladies and gentlemen, it took me pretty much all night, but we completed the puzzle. Somewhere along the line last night, I just decided that, you know what, I'm gonna do this until I'm done. And I stayed with it. And I was up until 5:13 in the morning. That's when I put the last piece in. So I slept until about 11:30. It's now currently 1:30, and we're just getting down to the studio now. I think my plan is gonna be, I don't have the stuff to do it now, but to put this on the cardboard, glue it to this, cut it out, and actually hang it on the wall next to the flag over here. But I don't have the glue, so we'll have to get that down the road. Today we're going to talk about cars again, because this is a car channel. There's a lot of stuff on the lens. Is that dust? Maybe that's better. I have a lot of pictures of some of them. I don't have many pictures of others, but I figure I'll just run through that story with you today. So let's get this party started. The first thing I want to do is I just want to run down the list of vehicles, and then we're going to come back and talk about some vehicles specifically and why I bought some and leased others, and you know, certain decisions I made through the course of owning all these different vehicles. So if you've been watching these videos in this CAR-ANTINED playlist, you already know the first two. The 1993 Mercury Cougar was my first. The 1973 Ford Galaxie 500 was my second. After that, and in order, we bought a 2000 Dodge Durango, a 2000 Chevrolet Cavalier. We leased a 2006 Trailblazer SS. We bought a 2005 silver Corvette. We bought a 2007 orange Corvette. We bought a 2011 silver Chevrolet Cruze. Not pictured, but I also leased a 2014 Chevy Cruze. Then we went to a 2012 Jeep Wrangler. From there, a 2016 Chevrolet Volt, a 2018 Chevrolet Volt, and now if you watch my channel, you know that we also have a 2019 Chevrolet Bolt. So those are the 13 different vehicles I've owned over the years. Now let's go back and kind of revisit a couple of them. So the 2000 Dodge Durango, this was my fourth vehicle. I absolutely love this truck. I wish I had more pictures of it. I really can't find any. All I found was these two that I'm showing you. But what you'll see in these photos is that this was something that I did customize a little bit. You know, if you look at the front headlights, I have the clear corner lenses in it rather than the orange. We have the extra push bar in the front with the fog lights. This truck was tinted out. This was actually the first and only vehicle I ever put like a proper stereo system in. You know, all new speakers, wiring, 2 amps, a subwoofer, you know, it was all tuned. It sounded great. Me and my buddy Christian put the whole thing in, and it was such an awesome install, you know, because it was a fun project. We were learning as we were going, but we didn't cut corners. You know, it was one of those things like when you opened up that back compartment where the storage was behind the third row, I had a board in there. We carpeted the board to match the truck. All the amps were bolted to that. The wires came out of the amp and went directly under and through the board, which I drilled holes for each wire. So it was just like, it looked like it belonged there. And another thing with this truck is it's probably one of my most favorite as far as memories. I owned this vehicle in one of those times where you were with your friends and you were going on adventures, and you know, there's just so many memories that come to mind with this truck that it just, looking at the photo, brings it all back. It's so much fun to just reminisce. The 2000 Cavalier. This was probably the best value I ever got out of a vehicle. So I just started working for Warnock Chevrolet. I'm in the business only a few months, and I had the Dodge Durango and I had the Galaxie. Both got really bad gas mileage. And I started driving about 65 to maybe 70 miles a day. So I wanted to get something with better gas mileage. And this car came in on trade one day. We gave the customer $1,900 for the trade. It was a 78,000 mile 2000 Cavalier. This was in 2004, so it was 4 years old. They ended up selling it to me for $2,000. And the photo you're seeing of this car is actually the last photo I took of it right before a salvage company was coming to pick it up, because Pennsylvania would no longer pass it for inspection. The underbody and the frame was just too rotted and too rusted for them to pass it. Although mechanically it was very sound. The car ran very, very well. But I literally did nothing to this car other than a set of tires, I think 2 sets of tires, a set of brakes, and I had to replace a brake line that had blew. Other than that, I literally did nothing to this car but put gas in it and oil changes, you know, regular maintenance. And for $2,000, I got 10 years and 120,000 miles worth of driving out of it. That Cavalier actually came in handy while I had like the Trailblazer SS and the 2 Corvettes, because I didn't have to drive those cars every day. I could leave them in the garage, and on rainy days, bad weather, stuff like that, I could take the Cavalier to work. So that was like the workhorse to put the miles on that car and keep the miles on everything else down low. Now, before we get into some of these cooler cars, let me explain something. I'm a car guy, and I'm working at a car dealership. That's probably equivalent to a woman who loves shoes having to work in a shoe store. You know, you're constantly in front of a product. You're always seeing the new deals. You're always seeing the latest and greatest. It's just so tempting that you want every vehicle. You know, you want them all for one reason or another. And one day while sitting at work, my sales manager comes over, he says, hey, check this out. The Trailblazer SS has this awesome lease. So for like $350 a month, you can lease a $41,000, 400 horsepower, all-wheel drive Trailblazer Super Sport. So I traded my Dodge Durango in and I got myself a Trailblazer. Now, the only photo I have of that truck that I could find is this one here with it next to the Galaxy in the garage. And it's because it was so short-lived. About a year later, a customer traded in a silver Corvette. It was a Corvette that I sold to that customer about a year and a half earlier. So in my mind, I was like, I want this Corvette. I can buy this used. I'm getting it at a great price. It only had 2,000 miles on it. Like, I want this car. So I sold the Trailblazer SS to a coworker. She assumed that lease, and I bought the 2005 silver Corvette. Absolutely love this car. This was my first car that was a manual transmission. So these next two photos you're gonna see are literally from the first days that I had the car. And I said, you know what, let me jump in the car, let me teach myself how this car is gonna handle, how does it drive, how do you shift it, you know, just really enjoy it. I went out west in New Jersey. There's a place called Hot Dog Johnny's. I stopped there. You can see I have the roof off. I'm just enjoying every minute of it, smiling ear to ear that, you know, I'm actually driving a Corvette. But again, it was short-lived because a year later I'm at the dealership and it's a rainy Saturday. My buddy Matt and I aren't really doing too much. There's nothing going on. He turns to me and looks and says, hey, you know, they have 0% on the Corvettes. You should trade yours in and get that one out front. And I was like, I'll stop. I'm not trading my car in. But then I looked at the one out front and I saw that atomic orange. And I thought to myself, well, maybe this would work. I have miles on my car now. I've been in it for a year. I bought it right. I can trade out of it. I can keep the equity. I can finance a new one at 0%, pay no interest, and it might make sense. So guess what I did? I drove home in a Corvette that Saturday. Took it in the rain, didn't even get it washed, just drove it home. And the funny thing is, I actually took the Cavalier to work that day, so the silver one was home in the garage. So all day Sunday, I had two Corvettes out front of my house, you know, washing, waxing, and just enjoying the fact that I had two of them for that one day. And then Monday, I drove the silver one back and I traded in. But the orange car was fantastic. And I tell you, it was the same vehicle, manual transmission. The orange one had the solid roof, whereas the silver one had the transparent. Other than that, they were really the same car. And this one I kept for 4.5, almost 5 years. I put 41,000 miles on it. I drove it to Florida. I drove it out to South Dakota. This is it out in front of Crazy Horse. I mean, even dirty, the car looks good. My buddy and I took a road trip over to Kentucky to the Corvette factory and museum, and we toured that. So it was like, I got a lot of great use out of that car. And I know one day in the future, I'll have a Corvette again. You know, so I had that car about 4.5 years, 5 years. Then like real life hits, you know, I was very fortunate growing up. So when I was in my lower 20s, I think I was like 24 years old or so, my grandmother owned a 2-family house. My father's aunt lived upstairs. She ended up moving out. They needed somebody to rent the place. So I moved in, I rented it. And it was awesome because one, I was there to help my grandmother. If she ever needed anything, I'd come home from work. She'd have me cleaning ceiling fans and doing little odd jobs around the house. I had a nice apartment upstairs and I had a 2-car garage downstairs, and the rent was like nothing. So the idea of me being able to take the money I was making in the car business and put it into cars, like the reason I was able to do that was because I was fortunate enough to have very low overhead as far as bills and stuff like that. I ended up selling that Corvette about 4.5, 5 years later because I needed more like a regular car, like a sedan. And that's when I got my first Chevy Cruze. I had the silver one here, which was you know, a fantastic little car, great gas mileage, very reliable. I ended up trading this one and leasing one a couple years later, but they were just fantastic, awesome cars with no issues whatsoever. The next vehicle to talk about would be the Jeep. You know, the Jeep Wrangler, it's an awesome vehicle. If you want something that's good in the winter, you know, can drive anywhere, you can go on trails, you go through snow, like all that sort of stuff, and then fun in the summer because you got a convertible and it's just, the Jeep Wrangler is an awesome all-around vehicle. Now, it rides rough, it rides like a truck, and it bounces around a lot. And, you know, after a while, mine was leaking through the soft top and stuff like that, but it doesn't matter. It's fun and it's worth it. And I like the Jeep Wrangler a lot because, one, you can mod it out. So if you look at it, mine from day one when I first picked it up to the last picture I took of it before I sold it, you know, years later, you know, there's a tremendous amount of mods you can do and you can customize it and really just make it your own. So I highly recommend a Jeep Wrangler. This was also a manual transmission. So after getting rid of the Corvettes that were manuals and going back to automatics, it was nice to get back into a manual transmission again. And lastly, the most recent cars we've had are the two Chevrolet Volts and the Chevrolet Bolt, you know, which is the electric cars. And as you can see from watching this video, I've literally had a little bit of everything. I've had your normal sedans, I've had your sports cars, your trucks, I've had you know, a classic, and now I have the electrics. And they're all fun in their own way, but I gotta tell you, these electric cars, they drive great. It's the instant torque, it's how quiet they are. I absolutely love them. I'm really excited to see where General Motors goes forward. I think on May 5th, they're unveiling this Hummer pickup truck that's gonna be sold by GMC. Hopefully they still unveil it on the 5th with everything that's going on. I'm really excited to see where GM goes with electric cars. And especially if you start to see electric gas combo again. Like there's rumors of a Corvette that's gonna be a rear wheel drive, you know, V8 mid-engine car with front electric motors, to making it literally like an all-wheel drive car that's both, you know, electric and gas. That would just be outstanding. And that's what I'm working towards. Like, I want to build YouTube and I want to build all this stuff up so one day I can have one of those in the driveway and make videos about it. Because I think it's time I get into a Corvette again. I'm truly grateful. You know, I've owned a number of great vehicles, and I plan on owning and getting a lot of the great stuff going forward. So, you know, I'm just going to add to this list. But in any event, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's a late upload. I'm looking right now, it's 7 o'clock at night and I'm still filming, so it might not hit the internet till about 8:30 or so. I hope you guys enjoyed your day, and I'll see you tomorrow, day 13.